Hello guys, so today we'll be talking about object-oriented programming in C++, and let's just get started. Alright, so here we are. So today's going to be a bit different. Today I'm going to be mentioning some objectives that we're supposed to learn together. So one thing is I said to understand object-oriented programming or OOP in C++ and how to write and use object-oriented programming correctly. I'll talk more about that uh, further on. But these kind of like the objectives to think about as I go through this video. So, what is object-oriented programming? Well, it's a way for us to write about stuff in real life into programming. So, like a student, like if you were a student in high school, or elementary, or college, how would you describe a student? You would say the name, the ID, and maybe, all right, the grade. So with student, there's a couple of variables you have to think about. So the ID could be an integer. The name is like a string, and the grade could also be a string as well. So I hope that's kind of clear why it's kind of like object-oriented programming. Because think of it like a container. It's like where you have a bunch of variables in one spot, in one place, in one container. So this is a bit different than other programming that you might have seen in the past, like the beginner programming, like variables and functions, um, that kind of stuff. But for this, it's gonna be a bit different. Um, how to write it, and how to explain it, and what the language is too, the vocabulary. I mean, so let's get more into this. Um, so important things to let you know. In C++, um, there is something called a class, an object, and a method. And for those of you that did Java or have some experience with Java, don't think about Java. When you're learning a new language, um, try to forget what you know about previously. Pretend you don't know nothing. Like you just fresh, you just started programming just today. And this is true for if you're learning multiple languages. I know for some computer science students or for anybody else that wants to learn more than one language, that's kind of like the key to help you out. I remember when I did Python and Java, I always mixed the two together, and that was a bad idea because they're both separate things. So please, anytime you're learning a second language or more than one language, forget what you know about a previous language. Just pretend it like you're new. You don't know nothing. All right. So, and there's some stuff in Java that sounds familiar, but it's not Java. It's different. Hope I made that clear. And so a class is a structure. So think of it like a lot of people say blueprint, but I would like to think of it like, how do I explain this? Think of it like a container again, as I was saying, it's a container where you have a bunch of different variables in that container. So coming back to well, I'll get into a class example later on. But think of it like that student example I said with ID, uh, name, and grade is one example of a class. It's a class called student. And so an object is something totally different. It's an example of that structure. So if I had a class student, an example of a student could be somebody named Steven, for example. And that's also called an instance. I know with object program, there's a lot of like vocabulary, and it's some people use different um, describe things different in a different way in object-oriented programs. So what I mean by that, one person might say instance, another person could say object, and it's the same thing. So just be wary of that too. Be just pay attention to that too. Just get used to the vocabulary. Um, I know when I first learned object-oriented programming, it was pretty tough for me. I had a really tough time getting the grasp of it, but it just took me a little while, a little bit longer to like really understand what's going on. And so a method, um, so for a method, it's a like a function, but don't how do I explain this? So it's like it's an action. Think of it like that. And so like what I said here in the example, so like talk, run, speed, speak could be another one. That's a method because it does something. Like on a method, you have to think about like it's doing something. I hope that's kind of clear. Um, and so okay, in C++, we have something called access modifiers. So we have three modifiers. We have public, private, and protected. And if you guys prefer, we can talk about C++ in a different video. I can make a playlist for it if you guys prefer me. If you guys want me to do that, I'll be happy more to do that as well. Um, I'm just thinking about the people that are watching this that are pretty brand new, and they might not know um, anything at all. Like they might not know what a type is or what um, like they're brand new to programming. Is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to help everyone out in a sense here. And so Republic, it's like so what I want to access by with the definition here, I should say outside of the class. Sorry, let me fix that. Outside the class. And that's for everything else here. This is outside, outside. So sorry, I realize now I should have made that edit earlier. So I'll get into more of that in an example, but these are three things that we have to also think about too. And I'll talk about later when we're writing classes and objects and doing more stuff with object-oriented programming. So let's get to an example. So we want to describe an employee working at a company, meaning we want to know the employee's name, the name of the company, and the age of the employee. So right now we're going to create a class. We're going to call it employee. And the reason why I set up these how to explain these? These are called like data members here. I should have been more clear about that. Some people call it attributes. I like to call them data members. It's the same thing. Um, I just like to call them data members because these variables, string name, string company, and age all belong in the class employee. Oh, I forgot to mention something to you guys. Whenever you're dealing with object-oriented programming, be careful with the spelling. Like for example, here you see how I have my int here. It's capital I, but it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be lowercase. Um, with classes, I always put the first letter to be capital, so I don't want to confuse anybody here. So just be careful with that. Anytime you're writing a class, make sure it's capital, the first letter, because that's way to tell you the difference between a type and a class. I hope that's clear. And so I just wanted to bring up why I decided to put why did I decide to do name, company, age. I'm just going through an example from a resource that I found online, and I'll definitely post them in the video at the end. Um, and so I'm just trying to follow the example I saw in the YouTube channel I saw earlier. And so this is the string name, this is the string company, and this is int age. So we have name, company, age. Okay, and what are the types? So name is string, company is also a string, and int is an age. If you don't know what a type is, think of it like they're basic stuff that the computer already knows what a string, integer are already. It's just a way to describe what is this variable, what is this name. what is this company? What type is it? Is it a decimal? Is it like what is it? It's kind of like what I'm trying to say here. So by string here, I mean with quotation marks, like double quotation marks. I'll show you an example in the bottom when we get to it. Integer is like it's like a regular number, but it's not a decimal. It's a whole number. And in C++, we always have the type and the variable together. Um, and I'll talk more about this why I say locked and there's something called a dot operator. I'll talk about that later. We get more into the example. And so this is a class here, and just to let you know, the reason why I had this semicolon here is because that's how the way the class is being written. So it's not me, it's C++. That's how they decide to write a class. And also with these are just rules. You see the semicolons here? These are just rules of C++ as well. So, and I mentioned this. This is very important too. Make sure you tell the difference between a class and an object. I made that mistake when I first learned object-oriented programming. I always make that mistake, but now I know I can tell the difference now. So right here we have a class, but did we create an object yet? So do we have an example of an employee just by looking at this class employee example? I would say no, we don't, because what is the example of employee? What's the example? We don't know yet. All we've done is define this container. So this container employee has the string name, company, and age. That's our structure. I hope that was kind of clear. And so, and one thing I learned when I was doing a lot of like programming and stuff is to write templates. By that, like try to write out how you're supposed to write things. Like for here, you see how I said how to write a class in C++. I said the class, capital C, with the class name and the attributes or data members. These are just variables of a class. That's another way to think about it. Um, this might not be the right term to say. Like if the variable is a class, people might not know what you're talking about, but always stick with data members or attributes. It just the when you explain something like in class or to somebody else, just make sure you're using the right language here. That's what I want you to be careful of as well. So with this template, you kind of like know how to write a class. If you had it like on a piece of paper somewhere, you write it down and you look at it again, you kind of know how it looks like. So it helps you write um, how to write the class, but it helps you like remember how it looks with enough practice. You can do this as well. You don't have to uh how do I put this? You don't have to like wait for me to do it if that's kind of clear. Like if you want to do it, make a template on your own, that's fine too. Um, but you can take this idea too. You can like maybe put this on a piece of paper and try to write your own template for your own class if you want to. I'm doing this just to help you see how we're supposed to write it. Because if I just give you this example on top here, um, it's not always going to be the same because somebody could say class student or class bank account. Um, it just how you're supposed to write these kind of things is what I'm getting at here. Like on a test or an interview or a coding interview, how you got to write a class. You're gonna have to know it. I hope that's clear what I'm trying to say here. So, okay, this is how we're gonna write an object. So we have the class name and the name of the object. So the class name is we have a class employee. So pay attention. This is capital E. It's a class. So and this here is the name. We called it employee one. Again, I got this from the YouTube video that I got. I think the name is called Code Beauty. And there's another object-oriented programming source I'll give you guys as well to look at. Um, and this is her example from Code Beauty. I'll give you the link to her channel and the other person as well. And again, this is not a class. This is an object. So this is the example. So we have the class, we have the container class employee, and our example here is employee one. That's an employee. Um, oh, and I forgot to mention something. Like, if you guys notice, this is like I'm like writing code in a Word here, but I know I haven't done a whole lot of like coding on my VS Code yet. I'm sorry about that, guys. It's taking me a little bit longer to like um put it together. You know, because I'm trying to figure out the logic and just make sure everything's set when I'm ready to record something. So please be patient with me in that. I apologize. I haven't done a lot of coding lately. Um, but what I'm gonna do when I get a chance, I'm gonna provide a GitHub where I post this code and anything else from my videos with code, like leak code problems and solving them. You know, just the code. Maybe uh, maybe like these Word documents too. I'll put them in there as PDF. So when I get a chance, I just started GitHub, so I'm gonna take a little bit longer to figure out how to use it. So when I get a chance, I'll definitely post it in there from here on out. Um, so yeah, if you don't like looking at it like this in Word, I can definitely put it in GitHub and we can work out something from there. So sorry. So again, I hope that's clear. Like a class and object are two different things. I hope that's clear, but let me know in the comments if you're still confused or anything like that. Oh, and again, a simple way to think about like this is how to explain it. I know for me when I first learned this is kind of like difficult for me to understand. And a lot of like YouTubers or people that done object oriented programming always say think about like when you first learn C++, when you're declaring variables, you have the type, which in this sense would be employee, and the variable name, which is employee one. It's just to help you think how to write it. If this like class name and name out is not that clear, think more simple. Think of like declaring variables in C++. If that's an easier way of thinking about it. And so again, we want to print out the name, age, and the name of the company of employee one. So I can kind of give you guys like the overview, the big picture of how we're going to do this. So how we done it, we wrote the class first, data members next, the object, and then we're going to get into something called access data members, and then we're going to get into the print statement. So I just want to clarify, when you start writing object-oriented programming, don't do it like we have the type name and then you set here's the value, which is a string. So this is a string because it has quotation marks, double quotation marks I mentioned earlier. Um, Anytime we have quotation marks, that's a string. And so, and then I said don't do this when you start writing out like you're trying to give value to the name, but you're not supposed to say string name equals set because name belongs to a class. It's kind of like locked. So again, let me just go up a second. Sorry about this. So where is it? Oh, here it is. So you notice how I said locked and the key is a dot operator. So but here, this name, company, and age, these variables are locked. Like you can't say like name is equal to Seth because it's locked. You can't access them yet. I hope that's kind of clear. So we have to think of another way to like give this name a value. So the idea is to access the data members from the employee class. Okay, so I mentioned for this to work as well, we need the class to be public. So right now, if I maybe if I oops, nope, sorry. So let me go back to the class for example. So the class here by default in C++ is private, meaning we can't access any of these data members yet. So what we need to do, and by default I mean uh the how do I explain this? Think of it uh like no matter what you do, right? Um, it's gonna think. what's gonna hold on now. What to say is like the C plus plus let's say automatic by when you go to VS Code, for example, and you type this in, like class employee all the way down to the semicolon here, by default it's gonna think, oh, it's private. And I'm not saying the editor, I'm talking about the I want to say the C plus the the rule of C plus plus, the brain of the when you download, let me show you a different example. Like when you have like Java and you have the JDK and when you install the packages for the to use C plus plus. So it's like when I go to VS Code and then I want to make sure I have C plus plus in my VS Code. So I have to install a couple of things from VS Code to do it. I forgot the name of them, but for now I'm gonna say think of it like it's a basic rule that every C plus plus person knows. If it's if you don't say it like the type, by default it's gonna be um, overall it's gonna be private. Hope that's clear what I'm saying. Think of it like that. Think of it like every C plus plus programmer knows that this is gonna be private. This class is gonna be private. I hope that's a bit clear what I'm saying. So what we have to do, we have to make it public to access these data members. So how we do that, we save the object name. This database is very huge, especially in object-oriented programming. If you're doing Java, Python, C, or C++, or anything else that's object-oriented programming, this database is very huge. Like I've done Java and Python, and this database, when every time I do object-oriented programming in Python, Java, C, or C++, or any other language, that database always comes up, no matter what the language is. So this daughter, think of like it's accessing. It's like it's the key. So again, remember I said these are locked. This name, company, age are locked. The way to access them is have this dot operator. So it's like it's the key to unlock it to access it. These data members. So we're gonna say the object name dot the data member. So let me just go and show you an example. So again, this is the object, and this is the type employee. This is the variable name employee one. So here, right, this is the name of the object, employee one, dot access the data member, name. Okay, and then I forgot to mention, when you do just this line, right, if you forget um whatever down here, just pay attention to this, just this first line. If I do this, you can only access name. You can't access like company and age because they don't have a dot, they don't have a key yet. You didn't set the key yet for that. You didn't access them yet, is what I'm trying to say. So once you add these other two lines, then you can access them. Company and age, I mean. This return zero, just exit the program. And this main function, this main is where you're supposed to run the C++ program. I know I haven't talked a whole lot about like the programming languages lately, especially with C++. Again, if this is something you guys want to do in the future, I can definitely do that. Just let me know. And so now we're how are we going to value? Like, how do I use the Ceph example. How am I going to give the value Ceph to this? Well, first, how to put this? Variable, I would say. This variable here. Sorry, sorry, I'm keep going around. It's my hands in the mouse. So we use an equal sign to give it value. So it's the same thing. So object name dot the data member equals a value. So again, a value here in this sense could be a string, could be a number, could be a decimal, could be a letter. I mean, that's what I mean by value here. So again, you see here how now we're giving the name Stephen to the employee one dot name. So now this value belongs in this data member. Um, I remember like when I first learned object-oriented programming, it was kind of tough for me to figure out what the heck does first line mean, you know? So think of it like a container again. You have you have a container employee, and then you have name, you have company, you have age, and these data members holds can hold something as well. So Steven will be hold in name, Amazon will be hold in company, and 27 will be hold in age, and they're all contained in employee. I hope that was kind of clear. If not, let me know in the comments. Oh, sorry. Think of it like sorry. Hold on. Yes, it's employee is a container, but think of it like with this employee one, right? Think of it like cookie dough. I know it's kind of weird to explain. So think of like employee was like cookie dough, um, because and an employee one the dough has name, company, and age, and they can store that in the cookie dough. And you're storing these values in these data members, which is in this cookie dough employee one, which is contained in employee. Um, so think of it like this: whenever you create a class, you could have multiple objects or multiple examples, right? So these values here, Steven, Amazon, and 27, only work in kind of how do I explain it? So those values, Steven, Amazon, and 27, all are all for the example employee one or the cookie dough um, employee one. Because if I create another object, which we can do that, I have to like cut the dough again and make a new one with name, company, age, but they're gonna be different if you want it to be. Um, which is usually the case if it's like if you call it employee two, you want to make it different from employee one. So that's why I kind of mentioned this employee one again because if you want to have multiple examples, like let's say you want two examples and you want to have two objects, you can definitely do it. Um, I just want to clarify like this, Stephen, these values are stored in these data members in this space here, employee one, but it's in this container, employee. I hope that's a bit more. I hope that was clear, or hope this is clear what I'm talking about. I know it's kind of hard to get used to this kind of like thinking, and it just takes a little bit longer to get it. All right, and now we're going to talk about printing each statement. So, okay, and this one is going to be, I did it a bit differently than the example. And I did a little bit differently above as well. I did follow Code Beauty's example, but I kind of made my own changes to it. Um, but if you want to follow it like line by line, that's fine too. And so in here, we're talking about the print statement for C++ here. So, okay, and just wait for a second how I wrote it out for let's take one example. Let's use name again. So I said C out these two less than equal signs, and this is like saying employee one name is. So this is like this is another string, but then it's a string. Just for now, let's say it's a string. And then we have employee one dot name. So this part comes from the example, this from this variable here. So again, whatever's stored in here, you'll see it out in the screen. The CL means you print it out to the screen, basically. And how and what I did here is I did it all in one line. Um, if you're not comfortable with this, that's okay. It's gonna take some time practice on this with this print statement because I know it took me a while to get used to it too. This NL means end of line, so after this employee one that name, you go to the next line. And the reason why I wrote it this way because I feel like it's easier if you see. I'll show you the two resources. I'll give you the two. Sorry, I'll give you the two resources, and then if you compare how the code beauty did it and another person, you kind of like see the difference. Hopefully, like in her and like in code beauty, she used STD and then like a little two uh ellipses, if I'm not mistaken, like two little like so. Look at all these things here. She did it like this. But I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to do it like that. So what I do to not have to type it, I would say I use something called a namespace STD. Um, no, sorry, STD string. use something called STD like string. So in this part, right, I don't have to write out STD all the time. And this line here, I don't have to write here. I don't have to write it there. It's already implied. It's already there. It's just a quicker way to type things. If that's not clear what I'm talking about, if anything's wrong with what I said, please correct me. Um, and again, this just takes a little bit longer to get used to. And so, what this will do exactly, will tell you, it will say, when you run just this first line here, it will say employee one name is Seth. Again, the value that's stored in here is Seth. Sorry, Steven. Sorry, I said Seth. I mean Steven. I'm sorry, Steven. Sorry. This one is Steven. Employee one name is Steven. Then it will say here employee one's company name is Amazon, and employee one age is 27. I hope that's clear what I'm trying to say here with this print statement. Um, so what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to take all three of these things and then put them into a function. Like I'm grouping them all into one spot. I called it print line. Um, so void is just, it won't return anything. You won't have to worry about anything. It's just, it won't return anything. If that's not clear what I'm talking about, please let me know and I'll talk about functions in C++. Um, and here I didn't put any like arguments in here. So I would just follow the example of what CodeBeatty did. But I think it's easy. I don't have to think about, okay, what do I have to put in these brackets here? I don't want to think about it. I just want to so group all these principles together for now, and I won't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about what I have to put in the function. I hope that's kind of clear what I'm saying. So I put this all in a function called println, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do employee one dot println now. Now this is a method now. Println is a method because now it's doing something. It's printing the name of the company, the name of the employee one, and the name of employee one's age. So that's what I meant with methods. They're like functions that do something. And I kind of already give you the answer. So again, when you run this program, again, it might not be. I kind of forgot the libraries. Sorry about that, but Code Beauty did this example, and she has she's using her code editor, and she's the one that kind of did the example. So kind of follow hers example then. I'm just sorry. I was trying to just show you an example to look at. I wasn't really thinking about like doing VS Code and like typing this and running this. and VS Code. I was just showing you an example to get used to it. So I hope this object in front of you is a little bit more clear now. You're hopefully a little bit comfortable with this. If not, it just takes some practice. Um, Again, just try to do these examples on your own and try to like figure out how you're supposed to write it. How is the logic? How you're supposed to think about the logic? How to start from a class all the way down to a print statement. It might be tedious, but it's very helpful. It's going to help you a lot down the line. If you get used to this object-oriented programming, um, then in my experience, I think Java won't be too bad because it's almost similar, but it's not the same thing. Again, um, and like Python as well too might be a little bit easier to grasp, and C as well. So it's kind of huge. Um, so again, guys, please subscribe to my channel and share my videos with your friends and family. It would have mean a lot to me if you did. Um, I hope that's clear. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this topic or anything at all about my channel or about the code. If I can post the code somewhere or something like that, I'll definitely do that uh, in the future. But thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Take care. Stay safe. Bye bye.